All right, so what in the world could a quiet, spiritual Quaker meeting possibly have to do with the super dense, complex philosophy of Martin Heidegger? I know, it sounds like a totally random pairing, right? But stick with me, because the connection between them, well, it reveals this really powerful critique of our noisy modern world. So let's dive into this unlikely duet. You know, it all kicks off with a really simple, but honestly, pretty profound question that both of these traditions ask. In a world that's just screaming for our attention 24/7, what actually happens when we decide to stop, get quiet, and just listen? The early Quaker leader, William Penn, he really hit the nail on the head here. For him, silence wasn't just emptiness, you know? It wasn't the absence of sound. It was an active thing, nourishment, refreshment, basically a way to restore your spirit. And that idea, it's the bedrock of the whole Quaker path. Okay, so let's start there. Let's really dig into the power of silence, the way the Quakers experience it. Because this isn't just about being quiet. It's a practice that can be deeply, deeply transformative. So, the heart of Quaker worship, it's not a big sermon, it's not some complicated ritual. It's just a community gathering together in what they call an expectant, waiting silence. And I want you to really focus on those two words, expectant and waiting. They're so important. See, they aren't just waiting for the clock to run out. They are actively, expectantly listening for something to bubble up from that stillness. Right, so what are they listening for exactly? This is where the whole practice goes from just, being quiet to being a really focused spiritual discipline that has a clear goal. Quaker meetings usually come in two flavors. You've got unprogrammed meetings, which are pretty much entirely based on that expectant silence we talked about. Anyone in the room might feel moved to speak. Then there are programmed meetings, which might have a pastor, maybe some hymns, but, and this is the crucial part, they always keep a period of that communal silence. So, no matter which kind you go to, the big takeaway is that silence is absolutely central. So how does this actually work for someone sitting in that meeting? Well, there's this process they often call centering down. Step 1, you consciously try to lay aside all the mental clutter, the to-do lists, the worries from the outside world. Step 2, you listen. You listen really intently for what Quakers call the inward teacher, or the inner light, this kind of guiding presence inside you. And then, and only then, if you feel genuinely led by the Spirit, you share that message with everyone. See, the ultimate goal here isn't just to be quiet for an hour. It's to become receptive. It's all about creating this internal space where connection to the divine can actually be felt and can be heard. In this practice, this idea of deep, intentional listening, this is where our story takes a really surprising philosophical turn. Okay, get ready, because we're about to jump from a spiritual practice all the way over to the world of 20th century German philosophy. And I promise, when you see how this unlikely echo works, it adds a whole new layer to what we think we know about silence. Think about it. What if this spiritual practice, this receptive silence, could actually help us unlock the ideas of one of the 20th century's most notoriously difficult thinkers, Martin Heidegger? It sounds like a stretch, I know, but the parallels are, wow, they're truly remarkable. So here comes Heidegger. He was a philosopher who was really concerned about a crisis he saw in modern life. He basically argued that we've all gotten so busy, calculating, controlling, and just doing things to the world, that we've completely forgotten a much more fundamental question. What does it even mean to be? To really get what he's talking about, we have to look at a few words that we use all the time: thinking, being, and language. But we need to see them through his very unique lens. All right, so when Heidegger talks about thinking, and let's imagine it with a capital T, he is not talking about logic or solving a math problem. He's actually critiquing what he calls the technical interpretation of thinking. For him, real, authentic thinking is more like a kind of receptive listening. It's an openness that allows the nature of being to reveal itself to you. Sound familiar? It's a lot like the expectant silence of a Quaker meeting, isn't it? And this quote from him, "Thinking acts in that it thinks," it just nails his point perfectly. For Heidegger, this kind of receptive thinking, it isn't passive at all. No way. He thinks it's the most profound kind of action there is, because it's engaging directly with existence itself. And language, for Heidegger, language isn't just a tool we use to communicate. He called it the place for being. Think of it as the space where our entire reality gets disclosed and takes shape. So, connecting this back, when a Quaker speaks from the silence, They're not just, sharing their opinion. In a Heideggerian sense, they are bringing something into being through language that was first revealed in the quiet. And this all leads to his idea of existence. He saw humanity as having this really unique role to stand out into the openness of being. Here's an analogy. Imagine being is a vast, dark forest. We, as humans, are the clearing in that forest, where the light can come in, where being can actually appear. We are the place where existence becomes aware of itself. Okay, now let's bring these two threads, the Quakers and Heidegger, back together. Because now we can see how both the spiritual practice and this complex philosophy are really powerful answers to the exact same problem in modern life. Heidegger would argue that our modern world is just filled with this kind of philosophical noise. We're trapped in this technical way of thinking. We use language like it's just a hammer. And we're so caught up in our own plans and constant scheming that we've totally forgotten being. This is the state of alienation, of disconnection that he was trying to wake us up from. And this, right here, just lays out the parallels so clearly. Look at this. For the Quakers, the problem is the distractions of the world. For Heidegger, it's the forgottenness of being. For the Quakers, the practice is expectant, waiting silence. For Heidegger, it's thinking as listening. And the goal for both is a kind of deep connection. Communion with the spirit for one, and intimacy with being for the other. It's almost a one-to-one mapping. Heidegger uses this incredibly powerful word for this condition, homelessness. He argues that modern humanity has lost its true home, our essential place in the world. And isn't that the exact same alienation that Quakers are trying to overcome? By laying aside all those worldly distractions to find their spiritual center, their home. And this leads to Heidegger's profound solution. He says our role is not to be the lord over being, not to control and dominate everything. No, our real dignity lies in being the tender of being, like a gardener or a shepherd, a listener who cares for and attends to existence. So, after all this, what does this strange duet between a spiritual practice and a dense philosophy actually ask of us, right here, right now? This is where these big ideas stop being abstract and start getting personal. When you boil it all down, both of these paths are calling for this same radical shift in how we relate to the world. It's a move away from a posture of constantly grasping, calculating, and controlling, and turning towards one of receptively listening and patiently attending. So I'll leave you with this. In our world of non-stop updates, endless feeds, and constant demands for our attention, this unlikely pairing of Quaker silence and Heideggerian thought poses a pretty direct challenge to every single one of us. In all our frantic doing, what have we forgotten how to hear?